These are quite famous men in dentistry, but what were they like as men and as people?
It was a unique combination of different personalities and skills and what people brought to the table.
Boy, they put their heart and soul into it, and that was the difference. Nobody did that. It doesn't happen anywhere else except Pankey.
Very, very dedicated to the profession, every one of them.
You know, it's representative of a level in the profession that many aspire to.
When he first started, he was in that little town, a country town, and he was extracting 80 teeth in the morning. And when his mother told him that I've had all my teeth extracted and I'm wearing dentures and I've not had a pleasant day since, that hit him hard.
It just shocked him because he knew what her future was going to be, and that he made a decision that he wasn't going to do that again.
He would spend the rest of his life helping people save their teeth. That was his words.
Because his commitment was, first, I'm not going to take out any more teeth. I'm not going to take any more teeth out. How am I going to make any money?
Well, this is 1925, 26. I mean, that's what dentists did.
Pankey and Mann and then Dr. Schuyler developed a systematic way of really evaluating and treating patients comprehensively.
The Pankey Mann Schuyler technique. They'd speak to 150 people.
Pretty soon there was certainly a genuine respect for all that he was saying.
Those kinds of things happened, long before, the Institute even started.
Dr. Pankey was their real mentor, and there was a group of them that surrounded Dr. Pankey and really studied under Dr. Pankey, and that's where the whole idea came from.
Some folks from Orlando decided that we wanted to honor LD for all the contributions he'd made.
They got together and decided, hey, we think this would be a good idea.
One thing led to another, and they were going to give him a plaque, and then we're going to endow a chair, and then somebody came up with, why don't we just start an institute?
He was honored that they'd choose to have his name.
In '69, I was aware that they were forming the foundation.
If they were going to start this, they should probably have some credibility by getting under the auspices of a university, and University of Miami was here, and so they felt that was good advice. They did sign a deal with them. That didn't last long. They thought that we might even build a building up at University of Miami and for the Pankey Institute, but that didn't. They were visionaries that way, but some practicalities just changed the course of that.
And it was in the 70s when Loren Miller and John Anderson stepped up to say that they would lead.
Really, the three people were John, Loren, and Henry Tanner.
John was a great leader, a fabulous dentist, a wonderful person, and everybody wanted to work with John. He attracted top-notch people to come and work with him. I always look forward to going to the Institute to see John.
My father was in dentistry and a man of really, really high integrity, and he became quite famous worldwide for all the innovative things that he did. And so as I watched that as a child, I obviously became very proud. Not only a great man in dentistry, he was a very humble man, a loving man, and a man of honor. He was my primary role model.
My inspiration was Dr. Anderson.
Honestly believe that we wouldn't have had an institute without John Anderson.
Everybody loved Loren. I'd be walking with him somewhere, and he, no matter what, he'd always say, hello, how are you? Had a smile on his face. I look at what he did for the school and for dentistry is he paid a big price, but he really got the rewards. And I'd have to say both Loren Miller and John Anderson are the Pankey Institute. If you just say, who are the Pankey? Those are the two.
Henry was a great addition.
He was one of the true geniuses I've ever met. True geniuses can be eccentric. So there are times that Dr. Tanner was supposed to be lecturing, and folks would say, where's Henry? And Henry couldn't be found. And he knew he was on the schedule. Sometimes he'd be napping. Other times he'd be so busy with the project, he would go 3 or 4 days without sleeping or eating.
An exquisite teacher of the Socratic method.
Ask you a question, why would you do that? Why would you do that? Well, let's see about that.
It was remarkable what you could discover about what he knew or even about what you knew.
DuPont Plaza was housed right downtown, right on the Miami River.
It was just a unique place. Of course, Miami was unique.
The Institute was in the office building next to DuPont Plaza. I mean, it was a very gracious door opening, and you walk inside, and there stands, Dr. Anderson and Dr. Miller.
Light years ahead of anything anybody had done. It was beautiful. All the facilities there were just top of the line.
All the windows faced out on the Miami River. There was never a place where there wasn't a good view. In fact, I think sometimes the people who were trying to teach us found us looking out and getting a little distracted.
Folks would come down for basically a week. Nobody was doing. Then put that together with Dr. Pankey's philosophy. It was the envy of all education.
David was excited that he was going down to a first course there, and that was in 1972, and that started his journey.
After that first course, obviously, I wanted to spend as much time down there and saying, this is the direction I want to go. Here's what I want to do.
I was in my office and working with a patient, and the receptionist came to me and said, hey, Dr. Loren Miller from the Pankey Institute is on the phone. I thought, well, I better go talk to him. And he said, Bill, would you be interested at all in being a member of our teaching faculty, the cadre group? I'm embarrassed to tell you. I said, you mean today?
There was 15 original cadre, and they were all picked by my father and Dr. Miller.
They decided they needed a group of students, people that were up and coming, I would say, to help teach down there.
Dr. Miller and my dad knew they wouldn't be there forever, so they were pouring their lives into these men so that they could pass the torch on.
Dr. Anderson and Dr. Pankey, they were all such leaders, and it seemed like the cadre were the young guns right underneath them.
Well, in the beginning, I have to tell you, it was a heavy load to live up to the expectations of certainly a group of the finest dentists in this country.
I remember the first time that we were all gathered together, and we had I think it was a week down there to learn what we were supposed to do and kind of divide up who was going to teach what and what courses.
I had been in class with a couple of the cadre, but the majority I had not been. So I basically walked into a room of friends who have become lifelong friends.
We had great friends immediately.
It was always about the Institute or what we were doing. There's no superstar. There was it was a team.
That was absolutely the most wonderful group.
Being asked to be a cadre member was more a gift to me than anything else.
A tremendous honor to be part of the cadre.
That experience probably propelled me more than anything.
But I would have to say, they were having a pretty good time there too, because there was so much camaraderie at the Institute back then, and it was so much fun getting together with these guys. They were all characters, very, very dedicated to the profession, every one of them.
Most of the struggles happened soon after his death. He was kind of the glue that held some of the faculty members together. And it was a stressful time because it was a fledgling experiment. There wasn't a lot of money.
John died from a heart attack during that time. I think the stress of that was really a factor.
After John Anderson's death, the Institute started to go downhill.
There was a lot of confusion of the next leadership. And there was a lot of things that moved the Pankey Institute to a place of where they were even in financial straits.
I then found out they were packing up equipment to sell, and they were going to close the Institute.
And I have to give credit to Dr. Peter Dawson, and he helped with fundraising efforts and got us out of a deep hole.
Billy Anderson and Jim Cosper, we would talk about the Pankey Institute, and so one day the three of us just sat down and came up with the idea of the Class 1 Triple Plus Club.
People stepped up to the plate and helped it out and helped it through some difficult times.
The main thing that happened was they put together a new board, and they, in turn, came up with the idea of hiring Chris Sager. Well, Chris Sager was the best thing that could have happened to the Institute.
Institute staff at that point, the director and whomever, the clinical directors, were insistent that it be moved to Orlando. And any number of people didn't want to go to Orlando, most especially Dr. Pankey, and they were bankrupt. There was no money left. There was a fundraiser, I think, that raised about $60,000, if I remember right, that allowed us to keep the doors open. Miami was in the news, but not for the right reasons. By the time 82 came along, and 83 and 84, it was getting seedier and seedier and seedier. So we sat and even talked to Dr. Pankey and said, you know, if we could afford it, what should we do? Could we go somewhere else? He didn't want to do that.
It got where we couldn't even walk to our room during the day without taking a buddy with us because there were so many people that were getting mugged and all in the hotel. So it became intolerable.
The board was going to vote to move to Key Biscayne, and that must have been either late 84 or early 85. The board was going to vote that day. Dr. Pankey said, well, I don't know. I'm just not sure about leaving the DuPont Plaza. And Dr. Cower looked at him and he says, if you don't vote to go, he says, we're not going to do anything. If we don't do anything, we're not going to grow.
That was an exciting move.
A fellow named Fritz Scheinberg that had built Key Colony. If we could get the documents changed, condo docs changed, that we could use them as student lodging. So that's how it started. So here was the package of the 12,000 square foot institute on Crandon Boulevard and the lodging, which we got to participate in some of the revenue as well.
It was through Chris's business acumen that enabled us to build the new Pankey Institute. We went through some hard times there, but we came out real winners. As long as Chris was there, I felt things were running very, very well.
One of the dreams was to have a kind of a home of our own.
There was a piece of property on the Key that had a defunct gas station, made an offer, and they accepted our $1 million offer, if you will, for the land on Key Biscayne.
Before the shovels came the fundraising.
Which is what funded the building. And we built a building, and we built it under budget and ahead of time.
It was the first freestanding institute that there was in the United States.
It was just a heck of a day, man. It really was a heck of a day when we opened the doors up and everybody walked in and saw it.
Celebration was just really significant.
And it gave us a building to grow into.
I think it's the jewel building on Key Biscayne. It's the pride of Key Biscayne.
And it was nice to have a space of our own.
You know, trials are inevitable. He had an early onset of dementia. There was a lot of pain, but there was a lot of respect. And he wasn't going to try to do something that wasn't at his top notch. And so he had to make a choice. And to me, that choice was his hardest choice, but it showed his character.
I would be working, actually doing something, and I would get this jolt, or it's almost like a bolt of lightning, and get set back a good ways. The war and serving in the military for 3 years really changed who I was. Meeting these kids that were 16 years old and losing their arms and legs, it just was terribly upsetting to me. I know that what was deep in my mind and my heart and soul was that I was with someone, or I had been placed with someone that could probably bring me out of the hole I was in. In that time frame, I got very close to Dr. Pankey. He had an immense effect on my life, changed everything I was looking at. I think that was one of the greatest gifts I've ever been given.
His resilience, based on the emotional hits he had, were the things that stood out. His first wife dies in an automobile accident while he's in Europe studying. I'm thinking about these hits that he had, and he had a way of verticalizing himself again.
You know, he said one time, I never saw a tooth walk into my practice. And I thought, oh, isn't that cute, you know? And then, but I didn't understand what he was saying.
I said, well, why don't you finish the sentence? And he said, well, why don't you finish the sentence? And I said, well, The way I'd finish it is I said, I've never seen a tooth walk in the office that isn't intimately attached to a person. And a big smile appears on his face. And he said, see, I didn't need to say that, did I?
You could sit and listen to him for 3 hours and it felt like 30 minutes.
When other dentist was with us, he was Dr. Pankey. I had the real pleasure of seeing this senior gentleman with a glint in his eye and a good joke and a laugh.
But I think LD, more than anybody else in dentistry, elevated the profession to understand that what we did was more than just being a tooth plumber.
The issues, as I see them for dentists, are the way that the business model of dentistry is starting to line up a little bit with how medicine is done.
The way it's going nationwide to corporate dentistry, to less excellence, less focus on the patient.
I think dentistry is more like auto mechanicking than it is dealing with people. It's find an issue and fix it. And that's, to me, sad.
We are in the person's health business and quality of life business. We are not in the fix the teeth business.
That's a person sitting in that chair, not a tooth with a filling.
Our profession needs the Pankey Institute more today than ever.
We are in charge of discovering, what puts a smile on our face, what kind of work we want to do.
There's another way to do it, and this other way is a health-centered, it's a relationship-based type of practice, which is what we espouse at the Pankey Institute.
Pankey-trained dentists are some of the finest dentists walking.
When I pin it on, I feel it very deeply.
When you wear that, you have a moral obligation to live up to it.
It had everything within it. The work and the play, the love and the worship. All of this was just David Hildebrand.
When I see somebody with a Pankey pin, I know that there is a person who has made an effort to be better than usual and customary. And I have very warm feelings for that person.
You look back on that career and what's satisfying to you. Those are the satisfying, the people that you've known, the people that you've helped.
You help other dentists and you help your patients. Does it get any better than that? I don't think so.
This is someplace I was supposed to go, and I went, and it worked out beautifully.
I've said for years, dentistry is the greatest hobby in the world. I loved every day when I went to that office.
Is it tough? You darn right it's hard. They're not easy. There are some days that are really hard. It's not easy. But I love being a dentist. I love helping people. And that's what I'd like to pass on to this next generation.
It's very appropriate. The future does start now. The past is over. We can bathe in its glory and think, okay, now we've done it, or we can realize, hey, we've just built the platform from which to expand further. And what we have to realize, and what I certainly have to realize, that I have to depend on other people now to carry on. And I'm most excited when I see people who are carrying on, who are excited, who are passionate about raising the level of care and knowing how they change lives.
I feel really things are in good hands. I love you, brother.
I love you too. Thank you so much for everything.
It's been a blessing to me that I was able to be a part of Pankey all those years, and my passion for what Pankey does has not waned a bit. And so I consider it a real honor to be here with all the other people who have made Pankey so important in our profession.